What do all these Minecraft bases have in common? Right, they're tiny. My dream has always been to have one of those really big ones, a megabase. But not just any megabase, the biggest of them all. So I started putting together a team of 20 Minecraft players. The goal was to create the largest projects ever done in Minecraft. So it's been going pretty well. Episode 1, the biggest netherite beacon in all of Minecraft. Episode 2, a gigantic 100 million block hole. Episode 3, every Minecraft biome surrounding the massive hole. But this isn't just a small side project like the netherite beacon. It's something much bigger. This hole is the location for our base, the biggest mega base in all of Minecraft. At the center of our hole is an end portal. It's the focal point of everything, and that's where we'll build the massive structure. The construction of this building requires hundreds of hours of work, several million blocks, and the creation of numerous farms. To keep everything organized, we're dividing it all into 3 phases. Phase 1, collect the 3 primary blocks. We need them in the millions. Phase 2, build the base, still very rough but extremely large. And Phase 3, add the details, gather additional blocks, and complete everything. Videos like this one are incredibly time-consuming and mean that we spend months on a project, so please consider leaving a like. It only takes you 2 seconds, but it helps us tremendously. The estimated material costs, and therefore the blocks that will primarily make up our base, are 4 million blackstone, 2 million smooth quartz, and around 1 million redstone blocks. A massive building with dark walls, sharp white edges, and plenty of red accents. We'll focus on gathering these 3 main blocks in Phase 1 so that we can jump straight into construction in Phase 2. And you don't gather millions of blocks overnight. So let's start with quartz right away. And there are different ways to get our quartz. We could mine quartz ore in the nether, but let's be honest, that's not very realistic since it would probably take years and we'd have to keep flying further into the nether to find more ores. Another option, which seems much more attractive, would be to trade quartz with villagers. A stonemason can trade quartz blocks at his final level. We need 2 million quartz blocks, so if we assume we trade for 1 quartz block per second, it would take us over 500 hours just to get the quartz blocks. And no, we're definitely not going to do that. But luckily, there's a third method to get quartz, and this one is quite interesting. Piglins also trade quartz, so you could trap hundreds of them, continuously drop gold, and with a 4.3% chance, they will drop nether quartz and blackstone. So all we need to have to get all the quartz and blackstone for the base is gold, an automatic system that lets piglins trade continuously and fills thousands of shulker boxes and, of course, hundreds of piglins. But before we break our heads figuring out how to gather hundreds of piglins or deal with the gold, let's first farm a whole lot of redstone stuff that we'll need for the farm, where the piglins will later be fully automated to trade for us. I have no idea how well this will work, but according to Mr. Tabao, the player who suggested the farm, we should get over 17,000 quartz blocks and 200,000 blackstone blocks in just 1 hour. And from that, we can easily get our 6.5 stacks of powered rails. Now we should have enough, actually. Oh yes, we have more than enough. Very, very good. Next, we need 4.5 stacks of polished blackstone bricks, and for that, we can just go to the nether and farm some blackstone in a bastion. We're done already. It didn't even take 5 minutes. We just got smooth stone slabs. I just grabbed the shulkers as well, so we're only missing one last item, and that's a string. After just a few hours, we had gathered all the materials we need for the machine. And even though this sounds pretty simple in theory, it's actually a much larger and more complex construction than you might think. Luckily, we have Mr. Tevu, who's really good with redstone. And while he and Lucas start building the machine, we need to take care of the most important thing, the piglins. Over 400 piglins. And with this small setup on the nether roof, it shouldn't take too long, because hoglins and piglins keep spawning here since we're in a crimson forest. The hoglins run into the wither roses, while the piglins run into the small hole on the edge. With a dispenser above, we place a pumpkin on the piglins to prevent them from despawning. And with this setup, it was just a matter of waiting a few hours until we had enough piglins. Man, that's crazy. A few days later, the bartering farm is complete. All the piglins have been gathered. Here you can see them stacked together. That's 320 piglins in one spot, and they'll trade us the millions of blocks we need. And here by the piglins, we also have a portal, because that's not all of our farm. These are just the piglins still trading the gold. And here we are inside the bartering farm. As you can see, the whole thing is a proper construction with a ton of redstone. I have no idea what all of this is or how it works. And here you can see all the items listed that are being traded. We can lower this, and all the barrels automatically fill shulkers, which are completely full with the respective items. Everything is sorted here. To power this farm, we now need an incredible amount of gold. But luckily, that's no problem since we built a gold farm for the world record netherite beacon. So now it's in here, and we can load a lot into it. As you can see, it's being directly put into shulkers and fed into the machine. The shulker is then placed, the machine takes out the gold, and everything is done automatically. This here is the start button. When I click on this note block, the machine will start. Yeah, something's definitely happening here. Oh, here it comes. There's the gold. And you can see all the gold is now being thrown into the portal, and now it's going to get really crazy. Watch closely. And here come all the items. And you can also see there's a portal without a floor. So the items that the piglins throw back on the other side don't fall into this water stream, but instead drop straight down. Oh, the very first shulker. It seems like the piglins have dropped a lot of arrows, and we've already got the first shulker automatically filled. We've filled a few double chests with shulkers, all full of gold bars. Now we're turning on the farm, and the piglins can start trading. They've got a long night ahead of them. We already have a shulker full of quartz and the first shulker of blackstone, and I think by tomorrow we'll definitely have more. It's now almost 20 hours later, and I have two pieces of news, one good and one bad. Let's start with the good news. The bartering farm is working really well. We've already gotten a lot of nether quartz and a lot of blackstone, but the bad news is that the farm has only been working this well for about 1 or 2 hours. And as you saw, yesterday we threw all the gold we had into this, our entire gold supply, which was 400 shulker boxes full of gold bars, everything we had from our gold farm that we had built earlier. It's all gone. But not only are our 650,000 gold bars gone, the majority of that gold never even reached the piglins due to a small error in the farm. And even though Mr. Tabao already found and fixed the issue, we were forced to wait another night until we had enough gold again. And while we wait for the gold farm to produce enough gold so we can turn this thing back on, we can go ahead and focus on the third block we need for our base. And it couldn't be any easier, because redstone is dropped by witches, and since witches appear in raids, it makes it incredibly easy to collect large amounts, especially if you have a raid farm that produces nearly 1 million items per hour. And well, we have one of those raid farms on our SMP. Oh, there it is, the ultra crazy raid farm. Here, we can definitely get our redstone because this farm produces 10 double chests of redstone blocks in a single hour. And as a bonus, it's pretty great because we can also generate some emeralds here, since this farm can make 500,000 emeralds in just 1 hour. Whoa, look at that. Okay, it's starting. Check this out. This is a raid wave. Probably every time they land on dripstones and get pushed into the lava and destroyed. Bro, this is really insane, and you can see the speed at which it happens. We're talking about 1 million items in just 1 hour, and you can see what's happening. All the raid items are flowing through continuously, and I'm currently getting 12 FPS. So yeah, redstone is the smaller problem. You have to imagine that what's dying behind me every second is a wave in a raid. So if you've ever died in a raid, this is definitely the ultimate revenge. Oh, there's our gold farm. Yeah, we built this earlier. We needed it for the netherite beacon, for the biggest netherite beacon. We don't have many farms, just a few. And here we are in the overworld with 3 FPS. But the gold farm is also activated. It's just as crazy as the raid farm, not quite as intense, but it's definitely enough. And now with the raid farm providing our redstone blocks and the gold farm running, we had to wait a few hours, especially for new gold, so we could feed the piglins. We hope this time for a successful run and to get our first significant blocks for building. These chests here are filled with blackstone. The farm worked. Not quite perfectly yet, but definitely better than the first run. We have 5 double chests full of shulker boxes filled with blackstone behind me, totaling 566,000 blackstone blocks. Just to put it in perspective, that's 566,000 blackstone blocks, which is nearly 135 double chests full of blackstone. That's about 11% of the blackstone we actually need. But what didn't work out so well are these 2 sad chests here. You can probably guess. These are filled with quartz, also stored in shulker boxes. However, we have significantly less quartz compared to blackstone. It's important to note that with blackstone, we get the blocks directly, but with quartz, we still need to craft it into blocks. This means that what we have here is only a quarter of what's in the blackstone chests in terms of blocks. Unfortunately, that's only 2% 90% of the quartz we need. This means we definitely need to keep the gold farm running day and night from now on. And with these relatively good news, Phase 1 finally comes to an end. Although we're still far from having all the materials, and we might have to come up with something else later for the quartz, with the blocks we can now automatically gather each day, we can at least start building. But before we do that, we need to craft all the nether quartz from the piglins into blocks. He can do it a bit faster than I can, thanks to a mod. Okay, everything is crafted. Almost 24 shulkers full of quartz blocks, and we'll take them to the hole. So here's the center, right under the portal, and Phase 2, the construction of the massive walls and the rough shape of the base, will also be divided into 4 steps. You might have wondered how we're going to build a base in this huge empty hole that actually looks good in the end. In Step 1, it's about laying a foundation, and we start with a layout that shows where each room and wall will be. In Step 2, we'll raise this layout and build a proper framework from a 2-dimensional pattern. Step 3 begins once we finish the framework, and with the help of all the quartz lines, we now know exactly where the blackstone for the walls needs to go. Step 4, the final part of Phase 2, involves covering all the quartz blocks from the framework that are still visible at the edges with some smooth quartz blocks. To simplify things, we'll build the entire framework out of regular quartz blocks since we want to save the hassle of smelting in the furnace for now. Man, this is crazy. The layout is basically done. I think it's really cool, and the size is just right. We definitely have something to work with. And in case you're wondering why we left so much space between the base and the walls of the hole, that was intentional. At some point, we planned to build a massive city of many small houses around the base. And I can tell you, even if it doesn't seem like it right now, this layout is an absolute monster. And the actual size will only become apparent at the end, especially when you're standing right in front of it. Next, we started raising the layout a few blocks higher everywhere so that the base doesn't sit directly on the bedrock, leaving some space underneath, which you'll understand later. So everything you see in the center here that we've raised is just for the end portal. We're now at level 80, and we can already start connecting all these points, which will form the ceiling of the end portal room and the floor of the next room. Now you can see it a bit better. This whole area is the end portal room. It's looking pretty good so far. This is the current state after about 7 hours spent building the framework. But before we continue, I want to show you something you haven't seen yet. While we've been building here, we've been dealing with monsters the entire time. So we need to turn on our mob switch. If you don't know what a mob switch is, it's a machine that prevents monsters from spawning anywhere in the Minecraft world by reaching the mob cap. Let's quickly go and turn it on because, as you can see, the mobs here are really annoying, and we definitely don't want this happening while we're building our base. So yeah, I haven't been here myself, but as we approach, you can see it's already lagging a bit, and you can hear something. This is the mob switch, and you can see there are a ton of wardens here. I hadn't seen this myself before. There are about 1,000 wardens in here right now. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but they ensure no mobs spawn in the overworld. The machine isn't broken, it's just that the server crashed, which caused all the monsters to spawn around us. So let's turn it back on. For the nether, we can turn off mobs, and for the overworld, 1, 2, 3, the mob switch is activated. Animals can still spawn, but not monsters. It's basically like setting the game to peaceful mode, but in survival. Now let's take a look. Earlier, we saw a bunch of monsters, but now there's nothing. Not a single monster. As long as the server doesn't crash, we won't have any monsters spawning anywhere in the entire Minecraft world. Now we can continue working on the framework in peace. A week later, it was finally time, and we moved on to the next and probably most labor-intensive step in the entire project. It's now a week later, and we have the basic framework completed. This here is the basic framework. It looks a bit overloaded at first glance. Actually, we did a bit less than we initially planned. We wanted to pre-plan all the windows and such, but only managed to outline everything. And since the whole thing is going to be very, very overloaded, we're already starting with the second step, which is the blackstone. We've marked all the walls here with lines, all the outlines, and in each and every gap, blackstone will be filled in. The bathering farm has been running the entire time. The gold farm has been running the entire time, and now we're starting with with the biggest step, which will probably take the longest and will be the most grind intensive. We're now going to fill everything with blackstone. For that, we can quickly fly over to the bathering farm and see how much blackstone we have accumulated after a week of the farm running. I can see that I haven't been here in a long time because we've been building the basic framework the whole time. These double chests aren't here for no reason. I assume they're all full. So this is definitely way more than the quartz we have. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 double chests full of blackstone. 2.2 million blackstone are right in front of me, so you get it. This was accumulated in just 1 week. We now have 2.2 million blackstone. I haven't seen it myself yet. I didn't know how much we had. Last time, it was around 800,000 or so. Now we already have 2.2 million blackstone, which according to our rough estimates, is already half of what we need. So yeah, we definitely won't have any problems with blackstone. We're going to make our inventory as empty as possible and start transporting all these shulkers to our base, running through the portal, flying to the base, dropping them off, coming back, and repeating the process over and over. So all the blackstone is here, all the chests are full, and we can start placing everything. What should we start with? I'd say we start with one of these corner towers. We have the towers in the corners, then we have 3 in the middle, and then we have another tower in the corner that starts down here and goes up to the top. We're now going to place our very first blackstone blocks, and guys, this is going to look crazy. It's going to make such a huge difference because right now everything looks so white, but with the blackstone, bro, it's going to be a gigantic contrast. And this is now our task for the next few weeks. We also have a cool mod for this. It's basically an auto clicker that lets us place blocks really quickly. It definitely speeds things up, so that's how we'll be filling the walls much faster, though it will probably still take a few weeks. So we decided to try using a Speed 2 beacon and see if it makes things a bit faster. Okay, Speed 2 is definitely worth it, so we're timing it now to see how long it takes to complete a corner tower. I have to say, we're still in the small part right now, and the tower will get thicker as it goes up, so the walls will get much larger. We're still in the smallest section, so let's see how long this will take. And with that, we've completed the first tower, the first of 4 of this type. As I said, all these outlines here made of quartz will be done with smooth quartz and will be much thicker, which will make it look even cooler than it does now. More details will be added, so it won't stay this empty. But yeah, that's the first one, and it took us almost 2.5 hours. So with that, we have finished 4 towers, the complete 4 corner towers, all done with all the blackstone placed. About 500,000 blackstone blocks were used just for these towers around the outside. From the 2.2 million blackstone we farmed, we've already burned through 1/4 of it just for the corner towers. I'm not even sure how long we took to build them. We've been working on these towers the whole day. Now they're finally done. And next we went straight to work on the remaining 12 outer towers. And because everyone knew how much of a huge difference it would make, some players even stayed up all night so that on the second day, with over 1 million blackstone blocks placed, we managed to finish the outer towers. All the towers around the base are done. Man, that's crazy. It really reminds me a lot of the old base. We can look at it from the front. I haven't seen it from this angle yet. Wow, that's crazy. Bro, just look at it. I haven't even seen it from here. And you see what I meant? It's still extremely empty. Before you couldn't really see much, but now we can clearly see where things need to be added. All of this blackstone that we've placed, 1.3 million blackstone blocks, just for the outer towers. So yeah, it goes pretty fast. That means we should probably turn the bathering farm back on soon to get more blocks. And we'll soon need to start thickening the outlines, which means we'll also need to take care of the quartz situation because as of now, we don't have much quartz. But now we'll continue with the remaining walls. All the other sections still need to be filled in with blackstone as well. As you can see here, over 11 double chests full of shulkers filled with blackstone have already been emptied, maybe even more. I'm not sure at this moment. Just casually, 1.3 million blocks placed in 2 days. Bro, what kind of numbers are these? Our old base had a total of 2 million blocks, including all the decorations. And in the next 2 days, we continued grinding for hours so we could finish the blackstone as quickly as possible and start working on the smooth quartz. Currently, we only have a few quartz blocks, which is far too few, and we still need to smelt them into smooth quartz blocks. Oh man, look at that. This is how it looks right now. It's super empty at the moment, but I think this empty style has its own appeal, though it definitely won't stay like this. But it already looks very, very epic. And now imagine at some point, there will be an entire city built around it. It's going to be absolutely insane. All around here on the bedrock, there will be lots of little houses with streets and everything, and this huge building in the middle. It's going to be wild, but it's still not wild enough because now the real work begins. Before we start working on the red accents, more quartz details, and some other blocks you don't even know about yet, which will also be part of the base, all the white edges that are currently made of quartz blocks will be covered with smooth quartz. That means we need an incredible amount of smooth quartz. On the one hand, we'll need a massive redstone furnace that can smelt thousands of blocks in no time, and on the other hand, we'll need an extreme amount of coal. To get coal automatically, we'll be building a wither skeleton farm. Wither skeletons don't just drop skulls and bone, they also drop coal, and we can later use the wither skulls when we equip the entire base with thousands of beacons at the end of the video. While Mr. T-Bow is building the furnace where we'll smelt everything later, we're farming the materials for our wither skeleton farm. First item on the list, 1.5 stacks of chests, and this forest looks perfect to chop down. The wood should be enough now. 1 stack of chests and 1 more stack is enough. And I ended up farming way too much wood. 1.5 stacks of redstone, so 1.5 stacks. Next item is 3 sea pickles. Let's see, 3 of them. This is strictly forbidden, only I'm allowed to do this. Grass blocks done. 2 shulkers of nether bricks, and for that, we'll need a fortress. Let's see if there's one nearby. My plan is to just tear down the whole fortress. Man, hello! Stop! With haste 2, can you instant mine these blocks? I can't break them fast, so I'll have to farm them individually. 2 shulkers full. Oh god, this is definitely going to take a bit longer than the grass blocks just now. So we need to fill up both shulkers. I'd say let's start tearing down the fortress. 2 shulkers of nether bricks. We've torn down a good chunk of the fortress, that's for sure. So TNT, TNT, TNT. We've got sand and gunpowder here, so bam. All the items for the Wither Skelly farm are ready, and I'd say let's head to the nether roof and start building it. And even though there weren't that many materials we needed for the farm, it was still pretty time-consuming. About as time-consuming as digging a hole where you have to manually mine over 4 million blocks. Let's just not talk about the last 3 days. But here's our wither skeleton farm. Oh, it's already working. Man, look at that. Okay, that's crazy. Okay. I'd say let's head over to the overworld side and check it out where the items are collected. I'm curious to see, because it looks pretty crazy. So you can see the thing in the overworld. There are all the item sorters and stuff, and the farm is running. They come out of the portal here, just like in our gold farm, and they get killed, just like in the raid farm, with an armor stand. It's pretty insane. So yeah, maybe we went a little overboard with this farm, but we're building a mega base here, so we're not doing anything small right now. We actually need a few million blocks, but yeah, this will definitely give us enough coal. You have to imagine, it's all AFK. You just stand here AFK with an auto clicker on the armor stand, and that's it. They also drop wither skelly heads. Look at this, all the chests where it's sorted. Everything is immediately sorted into shulkers, then there are shulker loaders behind it, and then the fully filled shulkers end up in the chests. So here are a bunch of chests full of coal, but also wither skeleton heads. With the wither skelly heads, we can comfortably craft a few thousand beacons, which we also need to later cover the entire base with beacon effects. Okay, do we already have the first shulker? This thing can run the whole night, and maybe by the next day, we'll have shulker boxes full of wither skeleton heads. That's hundreds of thousands of beacons. We're going to let the wither skeleton farm run for 24 hours, and then we can quickly check the bathering farm to see if we've gotten some more quartz, because we'll need that to smelt as well. To that one piglin here. Imagine they're building a wither skeleton farm where we need piglins for it to work. And you're the piglin that doesn't get used. The one that was brought in for the farm, told about big things, and he's just like, nope, you're spending the rest of your life here? He can't even watch, bro. He's just standing here at the edge. Let's make it so he can watch. Don't run off. Look, I'm really a kind person. Now you can watch. I'm not as mean as the others. I didn't call you nope. It's 24 hours later. We've let the farm run all night, and all the chests behind me, all filled with coal. We've got an unbelievable amount of shulker boxes. I already took a look, and there are over 1 million coal blocks in the shulkers. With all that coal, we can definitely smelt our quartz blocks. We also got some bones. Look, all the shulkers are filled with bones. And there are also an unbelievable number of wither skeleton heads. Bro, that's over 20,000 wither skeleton heads. With all these wither skeleton heads, we can kill a bunch of withers later, and then we'll power the entire base with beacons. But we'll do that once everything else is done. I'd say before we transport the coal, we should first check out the bartering farm again. We need a lot of quartz now to smelt with the coal for the smooth quartz that we'll place. So let's quickly head to the bartering farm and see what's going on there. I haven't been there in over a week or so. Okay, it's definitely full here. I'd say let's set up some chests and put everything we have in them. So the amount we have here is almost 4 double chests full of shulker boxes filled with nether quartz, and that's nearly 27 double chests of quartz blocks. So now it's time to bring all the blocks and the coal to the furnace to smelt everything. Since it was quite a lot of shulkers with coal, it took a bit longer than expected. And here we are at our furnace. All the other coal is already here, and so is all the quartz. We're going to activate the furnace now. So as you can see, there are an extreme number of furnaces built here. Let's see how fast this thing works. If I click here, the furnace will turn on. Let's go. Okay, it's starting. Let's go. Now the mine carts are running with all the quartz, distributing everything across these furnaces below, and then it comes back up. Let's see how fast it goes. I'm excited. Okay, here's the first shulker. An entire shulker full of nether quartz, crafted into normal quartz blocks. And now this entire shulker has also been automatically smelted by the furnace. Very cool. That means we now have an automatic chain where we just need to fly back and forth a few times in between. We just need to bring new resources here from time to time, like more coal or quartz. You can see the difference here. These are quartz blocks and these are smooth quartz blocks. With normal quartz, there are always these cross beams between the blocks, and with smooth quartz, it's clean. That's the big difference in the end. So I'd say we wait until we have the first 8 shulkers full of smooth quartz, then we can fly back and start placing the first smooth quartz blocks. We've already done this for one of the towers so you can see it better from the side. This is how it would look. The edges are a bit thicker. It looks a bit weird now because these slanted parts seem smaller since the angle is too steep, but that's okay because stairs will be added here. Dude, look at this edge. It's beautiful. And don't forget, there will still be the redstone and all the other elements added later. Making all the quartz edges thicker with a few 100,000 blocks doesn't sound like the hardest task, especially after dealing with over 2 million blackstone blocks. But trust me, it was absolute hell. Not only was it way more annoying than expected to place the blocks, but I also had to keep climbing around with water on the underside of the blocks to place the stairs. Especially the fact that we barely had any players motivated to help made this whole task a multi-day and extremely exhausting challenge. At this point, we had been working on the base for exactly a month. From now on, every detail of the base would have to be replicated everywhere. For example, if we later added red accents to one edge, we would have to do it everywhere. But despite how hard it was and how long it took, we were finally able to put our quartz blocks aside after a week and finish the outlines. After over a week, it's finally done. We're finished with the quartz outlines. When we stood here over a week ago and said, yo, let's just work on these quartz outlines a bit, I never would have thought it would turn into such a grind. But even though we've been working on this structure for weeks and have placed several million blocks, we still can't really call it a base. Apart from the fact that it's still just an empty shell and countless passages and floors are missing to move between the different sections, there isn't even an entrance. I'd say before we do anything else, we should take care of that. I think I just make a small gap, not even a door or something, just an elytra entrance. Now that's the thing, it's a bit of experimenting. You can't really plan something like that. Yeah, that's already good. Now it's time to build a floor here. So later, exactly where I'm standing, you'll land, and then you walk forward to the wall. We've already built an entrance here with all the walls, so you come in here, and now we need to make some kind of small passageway, like a tunnel, so we can exit here. This passage will also be visible on the other side, and all around we'll have our 8 entrances where you can enter and exit, and then our base will actually function. We have finished all the entrances to the base. On all sides, there are now 2 entrances. You can see it pretty well from the middle. There are 2 passages everywhere where you'll be able to enter and exit later. In the middle is the main room, which will eventually become a huge lobby. The entrances are done, and they took us 2 days, so it's really much more complex than it looks. Next, we worked on the entire area around the end portal, and we built passageways leading to the 4 rooms surrounding the end portal room, a second floor in the middle room to view the end portal from above, and finally staircases to get down there in the first place. So we're done down here. The end portal room is finished for now, along with the passageways. Here are the stairs that lead down, and in the middle we have the passage. From here, you can take the stairs down to the first side room, and from there, you can go up to the next side room. You can walk down the stairs on both sides. And yeah, it's all temporary right now. The blocks in the walls and everywhere will probably change. This is all just so we can get an idea of where everything will be later, and so we don't have to worry about it when we design the room. Now we can focus on the other passageways. We still need passageways for where the corner towers will come in and for the middle sections. As we already mentioned, we have the perfect space for that where the entrances are now. When we go in here, we walk straight ahead, and it leads directly to the corner towers. You can see it's still just an empty shell, completely empty. So we need to add floors, make passageways. It's going to be a lot of work, but we can make the passage here. And in the middle of the wall, we can do the same thing. And here we'll need a staircase that leads up, and the floors need to be added. And that's what we have to do next. All the stairs are finished. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 floors. And as you can see, I made a hole here because in this staircase, it's not exactly convenient to run up and down all the stairs every time. And since you usually fly with the elytra anyway, I made this beautiful drop shaft where you can just jump down and quickly get to where you need to be. You can also fly back up to your floor, go up here, and there will be a door. That's what we need to do now. Everywhere there are side platforms, we need to put in the floors. All the central towers are finished. We've built all the staircases, and now all the floors have been added where all the players will go later. This means there are now 40 rooms in total just in the 4 towers in the middle. So that's checked off. The only 2 things left to do now are the corner towers, because those are still empty, meaning we have a lot of work ahead of us. And then there's also the thing in the middle. So we immediately started building the passageways, and then we built a large spiral staircase in the whole of each corner tower. After that, we added some floors. Since we didn't know yet what we would do with the space later, we skipped dividing up the rooms for now. The last step before we could finally go to the raid farm to get our redstone blocks and start with the red accents was the thing in the middle. You need to know that we spent about 3 days on this floating part because we had to place an insane number of stairs due to all the edges. Unfortunately, I also have to say that I'm only 80% happy with it, mainly because the edges look a bit too thick. Still, it's way too much work to rebuild the whole thing. Only someone crazy would come up with such an idea. We're done. We actually rebuilt the thing in the middle, and now we're done with all the passageways. You can now move around the base. Everything is connected. We also added stairs here so that in the middle tower, where all the player rooms are, you have a passage that leads outwards through a staircase. And out here, bro, you have so much insane space. The thing in the middle looks a bit cleaner too. There's also a gap in the middle, which will later be the floor of my room. So all the player rooms will be in these towers, and I'll set up my room in the middle. The next and final step of phase 2 is the red accents, the redstone blocks. And that's our last main block. We've been building this base for over a month now, and only now are we getting to the last main block, the redstone blocks. I'd say, before I show you how we'll add the red accents all over the base, we'll fly over to our raid farm after a few weeks and check how many redstone blocks we have there. This is apparently all the redstone we have, an entire double chest full of shulkers packed with redstone blocks. I thought we had several double chests or something, but the raid farm apparently only ran for a short while, and otherwise it's just been sitting there for the past few weeks doing nothing. So tonight we'll turn the raid farm back on and let it run to restock. But I think with the amount we have, we can definitely start. We've placed all the shulkers here at the entrance, so we can keep refilling our inventory. We'll start at the outermost towers by placing the redstone blocks. In general, we're going to fill the entire base with redstone accents. I think that's going to make a massive difference once everything is covered with red accents. We're starting to place the redstone blocks along the edges. This means we'll create a second outline behind the quartz edges with redstone blocks. Yes, this will probably take a few more days. Look at all these edges. It's going to look really intense. Right now, the transition from red to black is still a bit harsh, but trust me, we've got plans to refine it later. The transition from blackstone to redstone will be made a bit smoother. I have to admit, red isn't really my color. I don't particularly like red, but it just fits our base perfectly. The base looks like a supervillain's fortress, all dark and menacing with sharp edges, and the red makes it look even more striking. We're truly finished. All the redstone is in place and everything is complete. Every single edge behind every quartz line has redstone blocks. We've placed about 2.5 million blackstone blocks, around 300,000 quartz blocks, including the stairs, and nearly 200,000 redstone blocks behind them. This wraps up the second phase. Now we're starting on some of the finer details. I think it looks awesome. With the red accents added, it has a strong impact. From a distance, the redstone blocks aren't very noticeable, but it still looks great, glowing bright red. Next, we'll focus on the details. I mentioned we'll work on the transition between redstone blocks and blackstone. In phase 3, we'll deal primarily with 3 blocks: black glazed terracotta, gilded blackstone, and calcite. It's still quite simple. We've only worked on the broad shape of the base, focusing on 3 main blocks: redstone, smooth quartz, and blackstone. Now we're getting into finer details. First, before doing anything else, we'll vary the blocks we've placed so far. For the quartz, we'll add calcite everywhere. Everything we placed so far, which took us about a week, will be textured with calcite. We'll need huge amounts of these blocks. For the transition between redstone blocks and blackstone, we'll use these beautiful blocks: black glazed terracotta and gilded blackstone. We'll place black glazed terracotta behind the redstone blocks first. We have almost 200,000 of these blocks, so everywhere behind each redstone block, we'll add another line of these blocks. The same will be done with gilded blackstone. This will create a proper gradient effect. It looks very elegant with the golden accents of the gilded blackstone. The entire base needs to look like this, so we need to gather massive amounts of calcite, black glazed terracotta, and gilded blackstone. These blocks aren't easy to get. Calcite and gilded blackstone can't be farmed automatically, and for black glazed terracotta, we need the most complex farm you can imagine. The first block we'll tackle is gilded blackstone. Here we have a few more shulkers, so we'll take some with us. Gilded blackstone is really incredibly tedious to farm, as you'll see shortly. Gilded blackstone can only be found in the nether and bastions, so we're going to fly through our beautiful portal, and now we need to search for bastions. Do we still have enough rockets? Because this is going to be a really long journey. In case you didn't know, gilded blackstone can be found sporadically in bastions. You probably won't even be able to get a full stack from one bastion. It's really not much. We'll probably need to travel several 100,000 blocks and need a lot of this stuff. These are all the rockets we have, 4 shulkers. I think that should be enough. We can start flying now, so let's go. We're flying east and looking for the first bastion. And here you see it. This is where we're looking for gilded blackstone, and it really only spawns sporadically on the walls of bastions. And this is how we're going to farm it. We probably need nearly 100,000 of these blocks. The good thing is that it can also be found in chests, which helps a bit. In the bastion, you can farm quite a few gilded blackstone blocks, but you can see that they are somewhat hidden in the corridors. There are also piglin brutes around, those with axes that deal extreme damage, so you might not want to get too close. Even with full netherite, they can still kill you. So this is going to be a really long journey, and we'll see how long it takes to gather a few double chests of this stuff. It sounds pretty crazy what we're planning here. We need almost 30 double chests of blackstone. While most of us are farming gilded blackstone, Mr. Tavau is taking care of building the clay farm, through which we will later also get the third block, black glazed terracotta. After 3 days of farming and my haul of over 1 shulker of gilded blackstone, it was time to head back. We're back from gathering gilded blackstone. I've farmed 1 shulker, and all these chests behind me need to be filled with gilded blackstone. We're filling the chests. Oh man, look at that pile. I think gilded blackstone is the most beautiful block visually. It just looks so valuable in my opinion. Let's see how many double chests we can fill. 4, 5, 6. Over 6 double chests of gilded blackstone. It doesn't look like much at first, but you have to consider that we collected this stuff individually in bastions, and we gathered it over the past few days in several hours of grinding. There's still a bit missing. We're only at 20%. I'd first focus on getting a good amount of all the blocks because we still need 2 other blocks. Next up is calcite. Unfortunately, this block can't be farmed automatically either. We need about 150,000 calcite blocks, which unlike gilded blackstone, is made easier by the fact that this block is found in huge veins in the Stony Peak biome. The problem is finding one of these veins, which can take several hours, and that's exactly what we're searching for now. Oh, what do we have here? A huge calcite vein after flying 20,000 blocks in one direction, because this is exactly what we need. Lots and lots of calcite. The mountain has 3 calcite veins, so we've brought a lot of shulkers with us, and they all need to be filled with calcite. The good thing is calcite can be instantly mined without a beacon, so we can easily collect it here. You can see that when you find a mountain like this, it's really a jackpot. We've got a lot of calcite here. Let's see how much we can get. The entire mountain is calcite free. You can even see where the calcite veins were. And this is our haul. 9 shulkers filled with calcite from this mountain. Very, very, very cool. And you can see it's quite a lot. So from one spot with calcite, we got about 15,000 calcite blocks. We'll take these with us and look for the next calcite vein. Moving on. We're back with our calcite, and this is the haul. About 180,000 calcite blocks. We can use all of these to texture the lines of our base. That's about 300,000 smooth quartz blocks, which means we should have enough calcite. We might need to come back to the gilded blackstone later, because it's time for the 3rd block, black glazed terracotta. Mr. Tevao has been building a farm for this over the past few days. I haven't been there myself yet, so we're flying over now to check it out. And this is the clay farm, or more precisely, a cleanstone generator, moss farm, bone meal farm, tree farm, dirt farm, mud farm, and a dripstone farm combined. Basically, several farms connected together to create clay from scratch. It first produces dirt with the moss and tree farms. The moss is then turned into mud with water bottles, and then, via the dripstones, to clay, which comes out here. Shulkers keep landing here filled with clay. We can then take the clay blocks to our furnace, smelt them, dye them black, smelt them again, and then black glazed terracotta is produced. The black dye wasn't an issue either, as we also built Wither Rose Farm for that. I don't know if it's enough, but I think so. This means we have enough of all 3 blocks for now. However, I'd say before placing them everywhere, it makes sense to do something else first, placing beacons. We've now collected a lot of beacons, so we will equip the entire base with so that we have all effects in a 1,200 block radius, except for jump boost. Jump boost is insane, and we will set up these strange beacons like the ones here. You can place 5 beacons at once on top to make it symmetrical. These will give us all 5 effects we need. This will cost several thousand beacons to cover the entire area with effects. We'll do this first because it helps with building. I'd suggest working from the outside in, starting with the biomes and making sure all effects are present in each biome. We can also choose colors that match the biomes. It could look really cool with such a massive beam, but we can dismantle this beacon here. All the beacons are placed, and the holes have already been made, so the beacon rays can pass through. In every biome, there's always a 5-block wide hole, and now we need to place beacons everywhere. You can see the rays going up here, so 5 beacons on each emerald tower. Last one. easy. And now we have placed all 320 beacons around. Dude, crazy, look at this. How cool does it look to fly through each biome now? There are 2 beacon spots in every biome. We have 32 biomes with 5 beacons on each spot. You can see in the top right corner, I now have all effects: Speed 2, Resistance 2, Regeneration, Haste 2, and Strength 2, and they keep renewing. This means we have now covered the entire area of the biome with effects. Everywhere there are biomes, we now have effects. In the Void biome, it's a bit special because you only see the beacon rays everywhere. And it's a bit different here because we have our Void biome where there's nothing. It's not so bad. It's still a Void biome, but because you can see the beacons, we might cover them with some diamond blocks to make it look cooler. It looks much cooler with diamond blocks. What we can also do is put different glass colors over the beacons to match the biome. We can choose a color starting with the end biome. And the cool thing about the glass is that when it's placed here, it turns yellow. And you can also combine colors. I can place white on top, and it becomes the color of end stone. This way we can mix our own colors and it will look really amazing. For the coral reef, we could use the colors of the corals, giving each beacon ray a different color or something like that. Oh, what we can also do is wait a moment. I have an idea. The colors look slightly bluish through water. We could also add a blue layer on top, making the colors a bit bluish. Does that work? Yeah, I think it looks good. Okay, the Void biome should be black. I think we agree on that. Looks pretty cool with black rays coming out of the Void. We've now dyed all the beacons. Now we need to ensure that we have all the beacon effects not only in the biomes, but also everywhere in the entire 1,200 block diameter area. For the bedrock, it's quite simple. Eventually, a city will be built on it, and we can place the beacons in the perfect spacing across the entire bedrock. We've finished placing all the beacons. They're arranged in a massive grid at an even distance across the bedrock. The problem we have now is that you can see all the beacon rays shooting up into the sky. It looks cool, but these beacons will be covered. The floor where the city will be built will cover all the beacons. To avoid this being too annoying, we've got a small mod that interrupts the beacon rays, allowing us to choose which beacons display rays and which do not. We'll simply use regular clear glass, which normally doesn't show up on beacons anyway, to cover all the beacons on the bedrock. The mod also allows us to do things like this. As mentioned, it's just for display purposes, essentially a texture pack. We just need to make sure that when we build the city on top of the bedrock and beacons, we leave blocks free for the rays because they're still present. Now we have all the rays around the biomes, but nothing in the middle. Still, all the effects are there, and the building in the middle is the final step. There are no dead spots anymore, meaning wherever you stand, you'll always have all the effects. What we're going to do now is cover the beacons with glass, just like we did with the hole. Done, all covered. We now have almost 1,000 beacons here, so we're done with the beacons. The only beacon left is a beacon. There it is. After placing all the beacons and having effects everywhere, we'll now spend a few more hours placing all the previously prepared blocks. And after more than 2 months and hundreds of hours of work, we can finally check this project off, at least for now. Of course, this base will never be truly finished, and there are countless huge projects coming up in the next months. To not miss any of it, feel free to subscribe to this channel, and if you haven't already, leave a like. This is our MEGABASE.